thought I'd use this time to talk a little bit about my journey into science communication, which was not typical. In fact, back when I started my PhD 20 years ago now, it wasn't really a pathway that you could take. There was no science communication pathway that I knew of that you could pursue. And in fact, it wasn't something I was thinking about. It was really born out of a concern that I guess what we do as academics, as researchers, as people working within universities is often speak mostly to each other about our work. We try to develop ideas, theories, research propositions that allow us to understand the world a little bit more effectively. And we publish these works in journals and books that only we read because they're too expensive for people to actually purchase, or indeed for stocks to shop. I remember as a young PhD researcher reading books in high street stores that were from popular science authors, thinking this is actually where we want to be. We want to locate our work and our ideas in these areas. I remember being inspired by works by Richard Dawkins, whose Selfish Gene, and other books of his, Steven Pinker as well, many others who have been prolific in creating comprehensible, intelligent, but incredibly accessible works of scientific literature. Felt to me that the sorts of things we should be doing as researchers. So over the years, I tried to find ways to do that, not quite as they have done, but I've often and tried to utilize platforms to be able to communicate with the public. And this includes, from very early days, designing my own websites, building these channels of communication, taking ownership of these platforms so that we can communicate directly to the people, was certainly a big part of what influenced me and continues to shape how I function day to day as an academic, which is often stepping outside of my community, my peers, my student life, and actually trying to reach people that can't get towards universities or never make it there for whatever reason. But it's also trying to realise that there's a lot of common ground between what we do as researchers and what happens outside of universities too. I often think, having worked a lot as a journalist at various events and in various capacities, there's a lot of common ground between what journalists do, especially investigative journalists, and what we do as researchers, especially social scientific researchers. And so throughout my life, I've tried to make sure that we connect with people, that we bring research knowledge, critical, analytical discussions into the public domain, working with organisations like Debating Matters, thinking about how you can build this capacity for interrogation, for evaluation, for critical thinking within all aspects of our social life. And in that sense, so science communication is really a kind of mission, I suppose, for me. It's something that allows me to feel that what we're doing in universities goes far beyond only our peer-based impacts and has an impact in the wider world. And it's that motivation that I also try to bring to my students. And when I think about teaching science communication, I think for me it begins not with knowing how to utilize a platform, knowing how to create content, but actually realizing that this is an incredibly powerful situation we're in, where we can communicate directly with the public, find ways to bring our research into the public domain, and actually come to terms with the fact that this is an incredibly privileged opportunity. There are so many aspects of what we do as researchers, as students, that do not reach a bigger population. And simply by sharing what we do, sharing what we read, sharing our impressions of what we read and what sense we make of it, is an incredibly powerful way to share that knowledge too. And I believe as an educator that all knowledge is available and should be available to everybody, which is why I think digital is such a central part of what I do. It's a part of everything that I think science and education should be about. Which is partly why I also like to work across disciplines rather than think about working just in science or technology or in ethics or in art or in culture. All these disciplines I think are central to how we need to talk about research, because research occupies lots of different spaces. I've seen over the last few months incredible examples of this, an art exhibition about artificial intelligence. The Reith lectures coming up soon in the United Kingdom are on artificial intelligence. This is a great example of a subject which has far-reaching, cross-cutting implications, whether you're working in health, engineering, art, media, you cannot ignore what's happening in these fields. And so, as researchers, if we remain located in our small silos and simply think we can progress as a society by doing so, we are very much mistaken. We need to find ways to step outside of our disciplines, to dialogue with people outside of our specialisms, and hopefully build a common understanding about both how to innovate, but also how to ensure that that innovation responds to what societies need. And for me, that's what science communication is all about.